So today we're going to do a reaction video from a band that everybody's heard of, acdc, but it's from an album that not a lot of people know about, and I think it's one of acdc's most underrated albums, which is Fly on the Wall. Now, Fly on the Wall was acdc's 10th album, came out in 1985. They actually put out a video that you could buy in the store. It had 5 videos on it. I don't know if this was played on MTV very much back in the day. For some reason, it wasn't received very well by the critics and fans. They didn't like this album. This was the first acdc album that I had ever bought through one of those. I think it was through RCA Music Club, because back in the day, you could get 11 albums for 1 cent. They would send it to you in the mail, and then you had to buy another 7 albums over the next year or 2 years or whatever. But nobody ever did that. You got the free albums and you just kept it and never bought any more. So that's how it worked. So the song is called Fly on the Wall, which when it first came out, a lot of people complained that the vocals were way too low in the mix. So Stephen King put out a movie, I think in 85 or 86, called Maximum Overdrive, and acdc did the soundtrack for that album, and I think they had 2 new songs for that album, and then they had some of the songs from Fly on the Wall, and then they had some of the older songs on there. So they actually raised the vocals for the songs that were on Who Made Who. But the original album that came out, I remember getting it and listening to it and thinking, man, I can barely hear the guy singing. I could barely hear Brian Johnson singing. But I do remember the video. I had the VHS it had 5 videos. I think the album had 10 songs on it, and 5 of them were videos. So one thing about this album is it was a little heavier. Like, their guitars were a little more crunchier. The drums were a little more poundier. This was probably their last album that was really what I think is like heavy. To me, it's their last good album that every song was freaking awesome. So let's check it out. See what Ava thinks about it. You hear that guitar tone? That drum is just like pounding. Don't you think? And all the videos on this VHS that they put out at the time, they were all set in this bar, and the band was playing, and then they have some kind of storyline or scenario going on around while they were playing. This is sort of what's going on here. That's the fly. So the album cover was like a wall, and it had a fly, and it had a hole in the wall, I think. So that was the fly on the wall. See? See, I think this was the very first video on that video. They had 5 videos, and nobody's there. Like, you see, there's nobody in the crowd. What do you think so far? You don't even. Yeah, it's good. And this guy in the video. So there was a storyline from the very first video to the 5th video, and this guy is trying to get a picture of acdc. She's so bored and tired. So this guy is trying to get a picture of the band. He's sort of paparazzi, I guess. So he's trying to get a picture of the band. And over time, as these videos go on to the next video...
Why didn't he just go inside?
I think that's what he's going to try to do. But you have to watch the videos from the very first one to the last one to see how the crowd is sort of reacting to them and sort of like, oh, hey, this is a good band. So it was okay.
I feel like back then the music videos were better because they had more of a storyline.
Well,
okay.
This one had a little bit of a storyline, I guess.
No, it's
not a big storyline. It had a little storyline to it. Well, there was 5 videos, and it was like a mini movie.
Exactly. That's like
yeah.
They don't do that anymore.
That's what they're trying. And what's crazy is this album. I think it only sold like 500,000 copies, and like their albums before, like Back in Black, Highway to Hell, Flick of the Switch, all those albums that came out before this one, they sold like millions of copies, and this one didn't do very good for some reason. I think because this album sounds totally different than any other AC/DC album before or after. But I loved it because I think it sounded heavy, it sounded raw, like he's really screaming to get his vocals through the mix of the music. Like when I first got this album, I was like, I don't know what the heck he's saying. I can't hear him. You couldn't hear him. Do the vocals seem like way low in the mix? Like it's hard to hear what he's saying?
Oh yeah, it's like all blended in with
It's blended in with the music. Like almost it's like here's the music and the vocals were kind of down here. But that's what's good about it because he's really screaming. He's really screaming, man. And this whole album, he's like really screaming his screaming his lungs out, pretty much. It just sounds like it was recorded loud. Like they went in the studio and they just cranked everything up and they had the drums just pounding, man. Oh, man. It's a It was good. Look, somebody commented the most underrated AC/DC album ever. I think looking back on it now, people probably appreciate it more than they did when it came out. Mm-hmm. But it was my first AC/DC album. It was what introduced me to AC/DC. And I thought it was pretty awesome. And I still do.
Sorry if you hear Lennon in the back.
Like every song is just kicks ass. Somebody else. Yeah, Fly on the Wall is a criminally underrated record. I've always loved it. Most girls, I love dudes who can rap. Me, 11 years old, I want to marry a man who can play guitar like Angus Young or sing like Brian Johnson. This is one of their best albums. Always loved Fly on the Wall. Probably their hardest, badass album ever made.
Thank you for watching. Haha.